Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. This is Bo. In this video we're going to be making some custom screen doors. The design here is going to be based a lot on an episode of This Old House where they built a custom screen door for a home. And yeah, next up, I do some milling. So here we go.
Now I'm ripping all the boards to width and to length, keeping in mind that each end of the horizontal pieces are going to have a little bit of a little tongue on them. And here I'm cutting the rabbet joint in all the pieces. First I'm going to run them flat across the table saw to make one saw curve, and then I flip them up an edge to cut the other edge of the rabbet, and that frees off a little piece of material. And then one of the last steps here is on the horizontal pieces. I use a tending jig, which I haven't used in a long time, to cut off the piece of material that makes the tongue on the end of the horizontal rails.
Alright, so we've got a lot of the work done on the table saw. Here is an example of one of the horizontal rail sections. You can see we've got a rabbet cut out the inside, and that is where the screen's going to go. And the nice thing about cutting it out on the table saw is that this little strip is left over. And that's going to make a nice screen mold. And I tried to mark them all so they stay with the right board, and they'll stay kind of grain matched on the inside, which will look nice. And then this second rabbet that's cut on all the rails acts like a little half lap. So here's one of my stiles on the bench. You see that sits down in there and creates a little half lap joint where those two rabbets meet. The half lap's not quite enough strength, at least that size of one. So what I'm also going to do is going to be putting a bunch of loose tendons in this. So what I have here is a sample of one of my horizontal rails. The mortise in the middle. It's a 12 millimeter tendon, and then here's what would be like the vertical stile, and that's going to go like that. And so you can see half lap joint, and then mortise, and that all is going to create a nice rock solid joint. I've got everything laid out on the bench here. All my domino slot locations. I figured out the domino setting I need to do. And so I'm going to spend the next while cutting all these out, and then I think we'll be getting pretty close to glue this thing up. So here we go.
At this stage I know exactly how wide the doors are, and then in a moment here I'll know exactly how tall they are. And so I move on to the jambs. The jambs were over thickness when I started. I'll plane them down off camera here, and then I'll begin working on them by cutting some notches for the top area around the house, and adding some large roundovers, and mortising in some hinges.
All right, the polyurethane has been applied, about 6 or 7 coats in total. It was a rather time-consuming and humbling process. It was very challenging to apply spar urethane. I haven't done it before, and it was tough, but it's done. And now we're about to put the screens in. I've never done this before myself, so we are going to kind of learn this together as we go. My plan is that the door is up on some blocks here, basically just a big piece of wood. For this large screen area, my intention is to actually clamp or pull the door down just a little bit to the bench to kind of give it a U shape so the ends are closer together. And so when I let the clamps go, it'll hopefully help stretch the screen even more on this upper section. The lower ones I'm not as worried about since they're smaller. To lay the screen out, my thought is I'll use some clamps to kind of hold it in place and then stretch it with my hand and use a battery-powered stapler to staple around the perimeter. That's at least my initial plan. Let's see how it goes. Let's get to it.
So you can see me using a hammer here. Since white oak is so hard, not all my staples would fully seat. So I took the hammer around and just pounded, just made sure they're all fully seated with the hammer, which worked pretty well. And now this interior screen mold was actually pretty time consuming to do. I'm trying to get a nice, 16th inch gap between the door and the screen mold. And so I'm using essentially just cut-offs, like you can see this cut-off I'm just putting there now, to help get the length of each piece right. And so is somewhat iterative. Cut one piece, bring some scraps over, go cut it again, bring it back.
So I wanted to give a quick explanation and demo of these little, I don't know what you want to call them, little door helpers. I'm not sure. But you can imagine trying to get the mortises on a door or the hinges on a door to line up with the mortises or the hinges on a jamb is tough to do, especially when you're by yourself and the door is very heavy and awkward. So in the case of screen doors, right, huge 8-foot tall doors, 35 inches wide, really hard to handle. This is what made it possible for me to install the door by myself. So simply, it's just some blocks of wood glued and screwed together. You have a long, these are for toggle clamps, but they're really long threaded bars with a pad on the end, and I just put a little star knob on end of it and a nut to double nut that in place. That clamps the door against these little pieces. You see the one in the back is really tall, and that's because if this would be the hinge side of the door, that would be the non-hinge side, so you can clamp that way up high in a stile to give it stability side to side. And so all I have to do is to help, first I have to get the door kind of close, within an inch or so. But then I can use a drill. I've got a hex head in here, and I can just lower or raise. Just lower and raise the front and back as needed to help pitch and align the door. Get that last one here. And so that will help kind of fine tune the position of the door so you can get your hinges aligned with your mortises. Yeah, it was the only way I was able to install those doors by myself. There's no other way I would have been able to do it. So super simple, extremely useful. 2 thumbs up.
All right, so filming the door installation was a little bit tough. The porch that I'm on is not very deep. So it's hard to get a good angle to get the whole door, but what you see here is the masking tape is where I'm going to be drilling holes to mount the jamb to the house, but I'm also drilling using a Forstner bit to drill a larger hole that I'm going to plug with oak dowels and then flush cut later, so the masking tape helps protect the jamb finish. And here you can see me, I'm using those leveling feet to adjust the door height and pitch and angle to get all the hinges lined up with the mortises, and then I'm now attaching the hinge to the mortise. And I shut this first door, and I was like, oh man, that is beautiful fit. It looked great. And the second one, get that into place here in a moment, which didn't take near as long as the first one. I guess I just got lucky on this one. I'll get this one mounted, and in my design I was tight. I was leaving myself about a 16th nominal, which the jam was a little bit smaller, so I ended up with with no gap and a little bit of overlap, which is fine. So I'm going to take a bunch of measurements, do some marking out on the doors themselves, and then I remove them, take them over to my little workstation over here, and get the track saw out, and I'll trim. I think I trimmed the top of one door and the inside edge. Yep, this is the inside edge here. This is where the two doors meet. And then doing a round over with the router and some sanding. So I remount the hinges and take that back over and mount it into place. And now this is the second door. This is the right-hand door, and this had the bottom to be trimmed. And then just a tiny bit on the hinge side, down at the very bottom of the door below the bottom hinge, it seemed to be pinching a bit on the opening. So I trimmed a little bit off there, routed the edge, did a little sanding, and went back and mounted this door. And would you look at that, 2 screen doors with a nice little gap and reveal all around them. And now I am installing the little, what the heck do you call those things? Little closures, little kind of those little gas strut things that go on the screen doors to act as hold opens or to keep them from slamming too hard. Just the last 2 things to do is attach the handles, which I'm doing here, and then attach that center strip to the one of the doors. And for that, I just use some construction adhesive and some pin nails to hold it in place while the construction adhesive dried. And then apply some finish to those cut edges. And over the next few weeks, I come back and apply a couple more coats of finish to those cut edges just to fully protect them. But this project turned out awesome. I'm really happy with it. Clients are really happy with it. And if you made it to the end of this video, thank you for that. I would appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up or a like. And if you do like these videos, feel free to subscribe. I got plenty more projects upcoming. Thanks, and have a good one.